Cash flow mastery. How to think in systems, not salaries. Here is a question. If you lost your job tomorrow, how long would your money last? 30 days? 60? Most people can't answer without their heart racing. That is not a failure of ambition. That is a failure of design. Most people don't lose financially because they lack ambition. They lose because they were handed the wrong map. Introduction. From the moment they understood money, they received one instruction: work hard, earn more, spend carefully, and hope it holds together. It sounded responsible. It sounded safe. But no one told them what that map leaves out. No one told them that income without direction dissolves. That effort without structure decays. That a paycheck, no matter how large, is not a foundation. It is a current. And currents that aren't channeled scatter. So they earned. And spent. And earned more. And spent more. Until somewhere inside the cycle, they stopped feeling safe. Because the more they earned, the more was owed. The more arrived, the faster it disappeared. Consider James. James is a 42-year-old marketing director earning $140,000 a year. By any external measure, he is successful. He drives a 3-year-old BMW, lives in a nice suburb, and takes 2 vacations annually. But James has $8,000 in credit card debt, exactly $1,200 in savings, and lies awake at least 3 nights a month calculating how he will cover the property tax bill. James is not lazy. He is not stupid. He is simply playing the wrong game, the game where income rises and expenses chase it, always arriving just a few seconds faster. James is everywhere. He might be your neighbor. He might be you. The problem was never the amount. The problem was the design. This is cash flow mastery, how to think in systems, not salaries. In the next several sections, you will learn not how to earn more, but how to architect more. How to build systems that move money with intention. How to separate survival from effort. How to create financial calm in a world that profits from your panic. This is not a lecture. It is a reset. Here is the sentence you will carry long after this ends. If your money needs you present to survive, you are never truly free. Let that settle. Then let's begin. Part 1, The Architecture of Freedom. Chapter 1, The Game You Were Never Taught. You were taught a game. Work. Earn. Spend. Repeat. It sounds like wisdom. It sounds like adulthood. And for a while, it even feels like progress. The paycheck arrives, the bills get covered, the cycle continues. But no one told you the game has no exit. Every level looks the same as the last, just with higher numbers and heavier pressure. The rules reward motion but never deliver arrival. Most people realize this quietly, somewhere around the 3rd raise that didn't fix anything. Somewhere around the moment the salary doubled and the anxiety followed. Take David. 51 years old. Orthopedic surgeon. Earns $380,000 a year, top 2% in America. He has a beautiful home, a vacation property, 2 luxury cars, and a boat. He also has a $750,000 mortgage, 2 car loans totaling $95,000, and $40,000 in credit card debt from a kitchen renovation. No college savings for his teenagers. A retirement account that's dangerously underfunded. If David stopped working for 6 months, injury, burnout, anything, his entire financial structure implodes within a year. David is not an outlier. He is the pinnacle of the income illusion. More money gave him more things. It gave him 0 freedom. In fact, it gave him less. Because his lifestyle now requires the peak performance of his surgical hands. Here is the first truth: a salary is not security. It is dependency dressed in routine. It arrives on schedule, which feels reliable. But reliability is not ownership. You are not building. You are being supplied. And the moment the supply chain breaks, illness, layoffs, economy, time, the structure beneath you reveals itself as borrowed. Cash flow mastery begins the moment you stop asking, how do I earn more, and start asking, how does money move through my life, and does that movement serve me? That question shifts you from passenger to architect. From reactor to designer. And designers don't wait for income to save them. They build systems that work regardless of what income does. Chapter 2, The Seduction of More. The most seductive lie in personal finance is this: earn more and everything gets easier. It sounds logical. It feels like math. And it quietly exhausts millions across decades. Because earning more without changing structure doesn't create freedom. It creates a larger cage. Here is the pattern: income rises. Lifestyle expands to meet it. Fixed expenses lock in. Now you are back where you started, except with nicer surroundings and heavier obligations. The raise that was supposed to free you has actually deepened your dependence on performance. Let me show you exactly how this trap works. Meet Elena. She earns $85,000. She gets a $20,000 raise. After taxes, that's about $1,166 extra in her pocket every month. What happens next? Elena decides she deserves a newer car. Old payment, $350. New lease, $720, that's $370 more. She upgrades her apartment, $500 more. She eats out more, $300 more. She adds a subscription box and a fancier gym, $75 more. Add it up. $370 plus $500 plus $300 plus $75. That's $1,245 in new monthly expenses. Her raise was $1,166. Elena is now negative $79 per month, compared to before the raise. She is working harder, earning more, and going backward. Elena didn't fail because she was irresponsible. She failed because she asked, what can I afford now, instead of, what does this unlock for my survival? This is the illusion. Income feels like the answer because it is visible and immediate. But cash flow is the real measure. And cash flow is not what arrives. It is what remains. What moves with purpose. What continues when effort pauses. A salary arrives in bursts. Obligations arrive continuously. That mismatch alone creates a particular anxiety, the waiting, the bracing, the catching up. It is not financial failure. It is rhythm-based stress built into a system that was never designed for calm. Cash flow mastery interrupts that rhythm. It smooths the spikes. It builds consistency where chaos used to live. Stop asking how much comes in. Start asking where it goes, how long it lasts, and what it builds while it moves. That question is worth more than any raise. Chapter 3, The Uncomfortable Beginning. Before you multiply, you must understand. Before you expand, you must see. This is where most people lose before they begin. They want more income before understanding where current income goes. They want returns before fixing the leak. They want the reward before doing the unglamorous work that makes the reward stick. Money does not respect desire. It responds to structure. And structure begins with one uncomfortable practice: tracking. Not guessing. Not approximating. Not feeling relatively confident. Tracking. Every dollar. Every destination. Every recurring obligation. Most people resist this because numbers don't lie. They don't soften reality. They don't negotiate with the story you've been telling yourself. They simply show what is. Let's bring James back. In his first week of tracking, James discovered something startling. He spent $214 on coffee and quick breakfasts during his morning commute. He had estimated this was roughly $60. He discovered $140 in monthly subscriptions he had forgotten about, a streaming service, a cloud storage plan, a fitness app he hadn't opened in 8 months, and a digital newspaper subscription he thought he had cancelled. He discovered that his miscellaneous spending, Amazon purchases, convenience store stops, lunch outings, averaged $780 per month, far above the $400 he had mentally budgeted. In 1 week of honest tracking, James found over $900 in monthly outflow that wasn't serving him. That's nearly $11,000 a year. For James, that discovery was not punishment. It was leverage. He did not need a raise. He needed a map of where his money was actually going. Here is the test of mastery. Can you name, right now, the exact destination of your last $100? If the answer is no, that is not failure. It is information. And information is where power begins. Actionable protocol: for the next 3 days, write down every single outflow. Not in an app. On paper. Physically. The friction of writing forces your brain to acknowledge the transaction. Do this, and you will identify 3 leaks within 72 hours. I guarantee it. Chapter 4, 2 Mindsets, 1 Winner. There are 2 ways to think about money. One keeps you working forever. The other builds something that works for you. The paycheck mindset asks, how much do I get paid? The systems mindset asks, what happens automatically after money arrives? That one question separates builders from laborers. Not in intelligence. Not in ambition. In architecture. When you think in paychecks, you are always one decision away from disruption. Your next move depends on motivation, mood, memory, and willpower, 4 of the most unreliable resources a human possesses. The moment one fails, the structure wobbles. Systems remove that fragility. A system doesn't require motivation to save. Savings happen because they are automated. A system doesn't require inspiration to invest. Investments are scheduled before spending absorbs the difference. Consider Maya. Maya is a freelance graphic designer. Her income fluctuates wildly. Some months she earns $6,000, others $2,500. Before she built her system, she lived in constant stress. When a $5,000 project arrived, she would spend it freely, treating it as bonus money. Then a dry month would arrive, and she would panic, using credit cards to survive. Maya transitioned to the system's mindset. Now, the moment any payment arrives, the system activates. 15% goes immediately to her shock absorber savings account. 10% goes to her tax account. The remaining 75% gets divided into her 3-bucket system. Maya no longer needs to decide what to do with money. The system decides. And Maya reports that her financial anxiety has dropped by 80%, even though her average annual income hasn't changed. This is the philosophy behind mastery: pre-decide. You decide once, calmly, with full attention. So you never have to decide again emotionally, when pressure is high and clarity is low. New section, the income myth. Here is a truth that will change how you see your paycheck. If you earn $100,000 and save 10%, you save $10,000. If you earn $50,000 and save 20%, you save the same amount, $10,000. The person earning half as much builds the same wealth. Not because they're luckier. Because they designed a tighter system. Income matters. Design matters more. Never let a modest salary convince you that systems are for someone else. Chapter 5, The Architecture of Flow, the 3-bucket rule. Most people treat their bank account like a single pool of water. Everything goes in. Everything gets pulled out by whatever screams loudest. That is chaos. Cash flow mastery divides the pool into 3 distinct buckets. Every dollar that enters your life must be assigned to one of these 3 roles. Bucket 1, survival. 50 to 60%. Rent, groceries, utilities, transportation. The non-negotiables. The floor beneath your life. Bucket 2, systems. 20%. This is the engine. Automated investments. Extra debt payments. Cash reserves. This money does not touch your daily life. It exists to buy your future. You automate this bucket so it leaves before you can miss it. Bucket 3, life. 20%. Guilt-free spending. Dinners, travel, hobbies. And here is the rule: once this bucket is empty for the month, spending stops. No borrowing from bucket 2. No, just this once. Let's make this real. Mark takes home $6,000 a month. Survival gets $3,000, that covers his rent, food, and car. Systems gets $1,200, $500 to his Roth IRA, $300 to his emergency fund, $400 to kill his student loans. Life gets $1,800 for everything fun. When Mark's life bucket runs out on the 22nd, he stops. He doesn't steal from his future. He waits. In 1 year, his emergency fund grows from $400 to $4,800. His student loans drop by $4,200. And he never felt deprived, because his life bucket gave him room for joy. Now, consider a different scenario. What if Mark lives in New York City and his rent is $2,600? Suddenly, survival is 70% of his income. That's tight. The solution is not to abandon the system, it is to compress the life bucket and expand the survival bucket temporarily, while aggressively cutting fixed costs or increasing income until the ratios rebalance. The system still works. It just reveals the problem clearly: your housing is too expensive for your current income. These percentages are not rigid. The principle is the assignment itself. A dollar without a bucket is a dollar that evaporates. Chapter 6, The Identity That Spends. Your biggest financial threat may not be your income level. It may be your identity. Because most people don't spend money. They express themselves with it. They reward stress with purchases. They soothe insecurity with upgrades. They buy symbols of arrival before building the foundation that arrival requires. This pattern destroys cash flow faster than low income ever could. Let me introduce you to Marcus. Marcus earns $85,000 a year. Solid, middle-class income. He got a $12,000 raise last spring. Gross. After taxes, roughly $7,500 hit his bank account over the year. Now, let's dissect Marcus's response. Within 30 days of the raise, he did the following. He moved from a $1,300 per month apartment to a $1,900 per month luxury unit in a trendier part of town. That's $600 more. He traded in his reliable Honda Accord, $400 per month payment, for a leased BMW 3 Series at $800 per month. That's $400 more. He upgraded his gym to an exclusive boutique studio. $100 more. He started ordering premium meal kits instead of grocery shopping. $200 more. That's $1,300 per month in new fixed obligations. Over a year, that's $15,600. Marcus's net raise was $7,500. He spent more than twice the raise, and he financed the deficit with his credit cards. Marcus didn't fail because he was irresponsible. He failed because he answered, "What can I afford?" instead of, "What does this unlock?" His identity was tied to looking successful. He spent to signal. And the signal bankrupted his surplus. Now let's contrast Marcus with his colleague, Nina. Nina got the exact same $12,000 raise. She kept her apartment. She kept her Honda. She gave herself a modest $200 per month increase in her life bucket, a few extra dinners out and a weekend getaway fund. The remaining $1,400 per month went directly into bucket 2. She invested it into a low-cost index fund. At a 7% average annual return, that $1,400 per month will grow to over $230,000 in a decade. Nina bought her freedom. Marcus bought a BMW that will be worth $15,000 in 3 years. Cash flow mastery requires emotional neutrality around money. Not fear. Not guilt. Not obsession. Neutrality. Money becomes numbers. Numbers become signals. Signals inform decisions. Clean. Mechanical. Undramatic. This is not about removing joy. It is about separating joy from impulse. Spending with intention creates calm followed by confidence. Spending as emotional release creates pleasure followed by pressure. New section, the 24-hour rule. Before we move on, here is a rule that will save you thousands of dollars this year. It's called the 24-hour rule. Any purchase over $100, you wait 24 hours. Not because you can't afford it. Because you need to know if you want it, or if the world told you to want it. Write it down. Sleep on it. If you wake up tomorrow and it's still a clear yes, buy it, guilt-free. No shame. But if it's a maybe, it's a no. This one rule destroys impulse spending at the root. Try it for 30 days. You'll be shocked at how many must-haves become never needed. Chapter 7, Building for Your Worst Day. The goal of a financial system is not perfection. The goal is survival. Your system must survive your worst weeks. Your most distracted months. Your most emotionally turbulent seasons. Because those will come. And if your architecture requires your best self to function, it will collapse precisely when you need it most. Most plans are built for an idealized version of the person who created them. Disciplined. Motivated. Consistent. And then life arrives, exhaustion, grief, distraction, celebration, and the idealized person disappears. The plan collapses with them. Here is a stark reality check. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, nearly 40% of Americans reported they could not cover an unexpected $400 expense. Think about that. $400. That's a car repair. That's an urgent care visit. That's a broken appliance. Nearly half the country was one minor inconvenience away from financial catastrophe. Not because they were lazy. Because their financial architecture was built on the assumption that every week would be a normal week. And 2020 was not normal. Resilient systems assume inconsistency. They plan for emotional interference. They place money behind barriers that impulse cannot easily cross. They automate before willpower is needed. Willpower is a renewable but limited resource. Systems are structural. And structure doesn't tire. Here is the reframe: your job is not to remain disciplined forever. Your job is to build something that works when you're not. Take the case of Dr. Raj. Raj is a pediatrician. He is disciplined by nature. He successfully completed medical school, residency, and built a thriving practice. But in 2022, his father passed away suddenly. Raj was emotionally devastated. For 3 months, he stopped checking his finances. He didn't pay attention to bills. He didn't monitor his spending. He was just surviving. But Raj had built his architecture years earlier. His automatic savings transfers continued. His credit card was set to autopay the full balance. His recurring bills were on autodeduct. When Raj emerged from his grief and looked at his accounts, he was shocked to find that his net worth had increased during those 3 months of neglect. His system worked while he was broken. That is the definition of resilience. Build for a Tuesday when you are tired and tomorrow feels distant. Build for that person. The stronger version of you will benefit automatically. Listener check-in 1. Take a breath. Right now, you might be feeling one of 2 things: relief that this makes sense, or anxiety because you aren't doing it yet. That's okay. This is where most people quit, right before the system starts working. Don't quit today. Just pick one thing. One bucket. One rule. Start there. Part 3, The Surplus Protocol. Chapter 8, The Trap of Comfortable Creep. There is a silent mechanism that resets financial progress every time income rises. It has a name: lifestyle inflation. The raise arrives. The relief is immediate. For a moment, the margin feels wide. Then, slowly, almost without decision, the lifestyle adjusts to meet the new number. A slightly better apartment. A nicer car. More frequent dinners out. Subscriptions that didn't exist last year. None of these feel dramatic. None of them feel irresponsible. And individually, they aren't. But collectively, they eliminate the margin. Once the margin is gone, the new income is no longer a surplus. It is a requirement. You are back where you started, with a higher cost of living and deeper dependence on continued performance. This is the trap. Not one dramatic mistake, 1,000 comfortable ones. Let's look at a detailed example. Sarah and Tom are a dual-income couple earning $160,000 combined. They receive a combined raise of $15,000. Here's their pre-raise budget. They rent a modest townhouse for $2,200, have one car payment of $450, spend $800 on groceries and dining, and have $300 in utilities/subscriptions. They save $700 per month. Post-raise, they decide to move to a larger house because they can afford it. New rent, $2,900, that's $700 more. They buy a second car because commuting has become a hassle. New payment, $500. They start eating out more frequently because they're tired from work. Dining budget jumps from $800 to $1,200, that's $400 more. They add a cleaning service. That's $250 more. Suddenly, their monthly expenses have increased by $1,850. Their net raise was only $850 per month. They're now saving less than before the raise. The margin has inverted. When income increases, the first question is not, what can I afford now? The first question is, what does this unlock long-term? Every recurring expense is a chain. Light at first. Heavy over time. The financially free do not rush to display success. They rush to stabilize it. Because a life with fewer mandatory payments is a life with more actual freedom, regardless of what the income statement says. Chapter 9, The Not Enough Lie. One of the most common reasons people delay building systems is the belief that they need more to begin. More income. More stability. More knowledge. More confidence. That belief feels reasonable. It sounds patient. And it quietly delays progress indefinitely. The truth is the opposite. Systems are not the reward for financial success. They are the prerequisite for it. You don't build systems because you're doing well. You build systems so that doing well becomes possible. Let's talk about Anna. Anna is a single mother earning $42,000 a year working as a medical receptionist. She supports 2 children. After rent, groceries, and utilities, she has roughly $400 per month left over. Anna believes she doesn't have enough to save. She's wrong. Anna implements a microsystem. She opens a separate savings account and sets up an automatic transfer of $40 per week, just $40. That's $160 per month, or $1,920 per year. It means skipping one takeout meal and one coffee run per week. After 3 years, with a modest 2% interest, Anna has over $5,900 in her emergency fund. That's not life-changing wealth, but it is life-changing security. It means when her car's transmission fails, she doesn't panic. It means when her child needs dental work, she doesn't put it on a credit card. Anna didn't need a raise. She needed a structure. And she built it on a small income. Systems built on modest income are often more effective than systems built on excess. Scarcity forces clarity. Deliberateness practiced under pressure becomes automatic under ease. The counterpoint, for the indebted or unstable, what if you carry high-interest credit card debt? What if your income fluctuates wildly as a freelancer? Do not skip this section. Your priority is not investing, it is stabilization. Let's use Maya again. Maya, our freelancer, has $8,000 in credit card debt at 22% APR. She creates a shock absorber protocol. For every single invoice that arrives, 15% goes directly to her tax account, and 25% goes exclusively to the credit card. The remaining 60% covers her living expenses and small life bucket. On a $5,000 month, Maya sends $1,250 to the credit card. On a $2,500 month, she sends $625. By following this rule, Maya eliminates her $8,000 debt in 10 months, paying only $780 in interest instead of spiraling for years. The system was strict, the pain was real, but the outcome was mathematically certain. The philosophy is the same, pre-decide. The destination is just survival first. Systems still apply. The math just looks different. A system built on irregular, modest income is harder to build, but it is unbreakable once established. Start where you are. Not where you wish you were. Rules are free. And rules create momentum. Part 4, The Two Speeds of Money. Chapter 10, Defense versus Offense. Saving feels like safety. That is exactly why it becomes a trap. Not because saving is wrong, it is foundational, necessary, non-negotiable. But because saving alone creates a financial life that looks responsible from the outside and feels stagnant from the inside. Money that only sits eventually loses relevance. Inflation erodes it. Fear guards it from movement. Hesitation freezes it at the exact moment when it could be most useful. Saving is defense. Cash flow is offense. A life played entirely on defense cannot advance. Let's look at the math. If you save $500 per month in a standard savings account earning 0.5% interest, after 10 years you will have roughly $61,500. That is fine. It's safe. But if you invest that same $500 per month into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund averaging a 7% annual return, the historical average, after 10 years you will have approximately $86,500. That $25,000 difference is the cost of playing defense. And over 20 years, the gap widens dramatically, $124,000 saved versus $260,000 invested. The invested money grew by more than double, while the saved money was eroded by inflation, losing purchasing power every single year. Here is the distinction: saving protects you from emergencies. Cash flow protects you from dependency. Savings build a wall. Cash flow builds an engine. One keeps you safe in place. The other moves you forward. Consider the story of Harold and Mabel. Harold and Mabel are both 65. Harold was a diligent saver. He saved $1,000 per month his entire career and put it in a bank account. He retired with $200,000 in nominal savings, but because of inflation, that $200,000 buys only about $120,000 in today's spending power. He lives frugally, terrified to spend principal. Mabel invested her $1,000 per month in a diversified portfolio. She retired with over $1.2 million. She draws 4% annually, $48,000, which is more than Harold's entire nest egg, and her portfolio continues to grow in most years because the returns exceed her withdrawals. Mabel doesn't fear retirement. She planned for it. You need both, but in the right relationship. The savings protect the foundation while the cash flow expands it. Money moves, returns, and repeats. The loop, built correctly, slowly detaches your standard of living from the requirement of your constant labor. Chapter 11, The Quiet Power of Leverage. Most people hear the word leverage and picture debt, pressure, risk. Something that magnifies both gains and collapse. That is one kind. It is not the kind that builds lasting freedom. The leverage that cash flow mastery is built on is quieter, the leverage of a decision that keeps paying you back long after the effort is finished. Time leverage. System leverage. Decision leverage. When you build something that earns whether or not you show up, a rental return, a business process, a dividend portfolio, an automated income stream, you have created leverage. Not through borrowed money, but through replicated output. Let's look at a specific real-world example, a duplex. Jessica saves $40,000 for a down payment on a duplex in a mid-sized city. She buys the property for $200,000. She lives in one unit, rents the other for $1,400 per month. Her total monthly mortgage, taxes, and insurance are $1,600. She collects $1,400 from her tenant. Her housing cost is now effectively $200 per month instead of $1,400. And her tenant is paying down her mortgage principal by about $600 per month. In 30 years, the mortgage is paid off, Jessica owns a $400,000 asset, appreciated, and she collected income the entire time. That is leverage without debt stress. Her borrowed money is fully offset by rental income. The question that unlocks leverage is simple: how can this action repeat without me? An income stream that earns once is a transaction. An income stream that earns repeatedly is leverage. Another example, a digital product. Lisa is a yoga instructor. She teaches classes at a studio for $50 per hour. She spends 40 hours creating a 10-part online yoga course and sells it for $97. She sells 15 copies a month. That's $1,455 in monthly passive income. Lisa can spend her studio hours teaching live classes for $50 per hour, or she can film 40 hours once and earn $1,455 every single month for years. That is time leverage. Lisa's time is no longer a finite resource. It is a replicated asset. Most people chase big, fast returns because repetition feels slow. But repetition is where compounding lives. Big wins are memorable. Repetition is transformational. You do not need genius. You need something repeatable. Start that. Protect it. Give it time. Part 5, The Psychology of Wealth. Chapter 12, The Biology of Stress. Most people believe money stress is about numbers. It is not. It is about safety. Your nervous system does not read balance sheets. It reads predictability. When income is unpredictable, the body braces. When bills arrive without warning, the system activates. When the margin feels thin, everything, thought, patience, long-term reasoning, narrows to immediate survival. This is not weakness. This is biology. And biology cannot be overridden by motivation. Let me describe a common scenario. Imagine two families. The first family has $500 in their checking account and a $5,000 credit card balance. Their car breaks down. The repair is $1,200. The parents' hearts race. Their jaws clench. They argue about whose fault it is. They scramble to move money from one credit card to another. They lose sleep. Their work performance suffers the next day. The body is in full fight-or-flight mode, cortisol floods the system, reducing their immune function and increasing their anxiety. One $1,200 repair triggers a cascade of biological harm. Now imagine the second family. They have $12,000 in their Bucket 2 emergency fund. Their car breaks down. The repair is $1,200. They transfer the money from savings to checking, pay the mechanic, and go back to making dinner. No argument. No sleeplessness. No cortisol spike. The biological stress response never activates. The second family is healthier, more present, and more productive. Not because they earned more money. Because they structured it. This is why intelligent people make poor financial decisions under pressure. Not because they lack knowledge. Because they lack calm. And calm is not a personality trait. It is a system output. When money is structured, the nervous system relaxes. When bills are covered automatically, the background hum of financial anxiety quiets. In that quiet, long-term thinking becomes possible. And long-term thinking is impossible under chronic financial stress. The brain under pressure cannot plan. It can only react. Design money to be boring. Design the system to be reliable. Let the nervous system do what it was built for, not managing emergencies, but supporting the life you are building. Chapter 13, Stretching the Window. Most people live in 30-day windows. Paycheck to paycheck. Bill to bill. Month to month. They train their thinking to match the rhythm. Short time horizons produce short strategies. You patch instead of build. You chase relief instead of momentum. Cash flow mastery stretches time. Not into fantasy. Into realism. Let's run a comparative timeline. Timeline A, the 30-day mindset. Person A thinks, I have $2,000 left this month. Should I invest it? No, I might need it. I'll just keep it in checking. Person A repeats this for 10 years. They accumulate $10,000 in checking, losing value to inflation. They never build wealth. Timeline B, the 3-year mindset. Person B thinks, I have $2,000 left this month. I will invest it in a broad index fund. I won't touch it for 3 years. By then, based on historical averages, it should be around $2,450. I'll add more next month. Person B repeats this for 10 years. With consistent contributions and compounding, Person B accumulates over $150,000. Here is the question that reveals whether you are building or coping. If nothing changed except your systems, if you simply built the right structure and left it alone, where would you be in 3 years? Let's apply this to a real person, Kevin. Kevin is 30 years old. He starts investing $300 per month at a 7% return. At age 40, he has $52,000. At age 50, he has $148,000. At age 60, he has $354,000. That $300 per month, less than the cost of a daily latte and a weekly dinner out, turned into $354,000 over 3 decades. Kevin didn't win the lottery. He didn't make risky bets. He simply stretched his time horizon and gave the system room to work. Long-term thinking feels boring at first. It doesn't produce the dopamine of a big win. It doesn't feel urgent. It doesn't ask for celebration. But that is where compounding lives. Quietly. Invisibly. Accumulating beneath the surface while the short-term mind grows impatient. The financially free do not ask, how do I win this month? They ask, what compounds if I leave it alone? Chapter 14, Protecting Attention. The silent killer of financial systems is not bad decisions. It is scattered attention. Cash flow mastery does not require constant brilliance. It requires sustained focus in the right places and complete disregard for everything else. Most people fail this test because they are overloaded. A new strategy every quarter. A new platform every season. A new plan every time an emotion spikes. They are always working on their finances. And nothing compounds. Let me show you the cost of distraction. Alex spends 200 hours researching stocks, crypto, and switching his 401k. Over 2 years, his return. 3.2%. His coworker Brian does one thing, Otto invests 15% of his paycheck into a target date fund and spends 0 hours thinking about it. Brian's return: 9.8%. Brian beat Alex by 6.5% while doing absolutely nothing. More inputs do not create better outcomes. Depth beats breadth. If your financial plan requires daily attention, it is fragile. Strong systems run quietly. Here's a practical rule. Schedule 1 finance day per quarter. That's 4 days per year. On that day, you check your net worth, rebalance your portfolio if necessary, rare, and review your budget. The rest of the year, you ignore the noise. You don't check the market daily. You don't read financial blogs obsessively. You trust the architecture. Automation is not laziness. It is realism. You automate not because you lack discipline, but because you respect the limits of human attention. Listener check-in 2. Pause this video right now. Write down the last $100 you spent. Where did it go? Be honest. I'll wait. If you can't remember, that's exactly why tracking matters. Don't feel guilty. Feel informed. Now let's keep going. Part 6, The Maturity Phase. Chapter 15, The Currency That Matters. The quiet luxury most people never reach is not wealth. It is choice. Not the appearance of choice. The real kind. The kind where decisions are not rushed by bills, not pressured by survival, not made from desperation pretending to be strategy. Options without stability are just stress wearing a different mask. You see the opportunity. You cannot take it. The margin is too thin. The risk is too high. The system is too fragile to absorb deviation. Let's contrast two people with identical income. Person A, fragile. Earns $90,000. Has $2,000 in savings. Has a $500 per month car payment. They are offered an entrepreneurial opportunity that requires $5,000 in startup capital and promises to double their income in 3 years. Person A cannot take the risk. Their system is too fragile. They pass on the opportunity and stay in their corporate job, complaining about it for the next decade. Person B, resilient. Earns $90,000. Has $15,000 in savings, their buffer. Has a paid-off car. They are offered the exact same opportunity. Person B has a 6-month emergency fund. They can take the $5,000 risk without endangering their housing or groceries. If the venture fails, they fall back on their savings and get another job. If it succeeds, they triple their income. Person B has optionality. Person A has none. Cash flow mastery widens the margin. It creates breathing room. Breathing room changes everything, not just financially, but psychologically. The quality of every decision improves when survival is no longer the stakes. You stop asking, what do I have to do? You start asking, what do I want to build? Once you have made a decision from a place of genuine calm, not urgency, not fear, you cannot forget what that feels like. And you will not settle for less again. Chapter 16, The Discipline of Waiting. Patience is not waiting. Waiting is passive. It hopes for improvement while doing nothing. Patience is different. It is active restraint. The discipline of someone who has already built something and trusts it enough to leave it alone. Most people act early, which is correct. Then they cannot stop acting, which is destructive. They monitor constantly. They adjust emotionally. They abandon systems because results feel slower than expected. Let's tell the story of the bamboo tree. In the first year after planting a bamboo seed, you see absolutely nothing above ground. Year 2, nothing. Year 3, nothing. Year 4, nothing. In year 5, the bamboo tree grows 80 feet in 6 weeks. Did it grow 80 feet in 6 weeks? No. It grew 80 feet in 5 years. The infrastructure, the root system, was growing underground the entire time. The visible growth was simply the expression of invisible preparation. Financial systems work the same way. For the first 12 to 24 months, the results feel negligible. You save $200 per month and see $5,000 in an account, it feels small. You invest cautiously and the returns are unremarkable. But beneath the surface, the root system is building. Habits are hardening. Momentum is accumulating. And then, around year 5, the compounding becomes visible. The leaps happen. But those leaps are the consequence of years of patient, boring discipline. Cash flow mastery teaches a different posture: build early, build deliberately, and then give the system space. Money systems do not reward urgency. They reward endurance. Measure health, not excitement. Ask, is the system functioning? Is flow stable? Is downside controlled? If the answers are yes, the correct move is to wait. Waiting with confidence is a skill. Once trusted, it does more for your future than any shortcut. Chapter 17, When Success Becomes Dangerous. Growth is seductive. That is its most significant danger. When systems begin working, when numbers finally move in your direction, something inside you shifts. Success awakens the part of you that wants proof. Proof the struggle meant something. Proof you've arrived. This is where systems collapse. Not from weakness. From premature celebration. Let me tell you about a business owner I'll call the founder. The founder built a small digital agency. After 3 grueling years, the business hit $500,000 in annual revenue. For the first time, the founder had real cash flow. He felt he had arrived. To celebrate, he bought a Porsche 911, $80,000 with financing. He upgraded his office, hired 2 more employees, and took his team on a lavish retreat. His fixed monthly costs jumped from $15,000 to $28,000. 6 months later, his largest client, accounting for 35% of his revenue, moved their business in-house. The founder's revenue dropped to $350,000, but his expenses were now $336,000 annually. He was suddenly operating on a razor-thin margin. He had to lay off one of his new employees. He almost defaulted on the Porsche. The founder didn't fail because he was lazy. He failed because he treated a sign of success as the arrival of success. He expanded his lifestyle before reinforcing his foundation. Treat early success like a young flame. Shield it. Feed it carefully. Don't put it on display. Once your lifestyle requires your system to perform at its ceiling, you have reintroduced fragility. The question mastery asks during growth is not, how much can I afford now? It is, how much more can I absorb without becoming dependent on that performance? That builds durability rather than display. Consider a different approach. Instead of the Porsche, the founder could have reinvested that $80,000 into marketing and sales, building a pipeline that would replace the lost client within 90 days. Or he could have kept the business lean, taking a modest salary, and invested the excess into a diversified stock portfolio. Within 10 years, he could have accumulated over $1 million in net worth from that business alone, regardless of whether the business grew or shrank. Durability beats display every time. Chapter 18, Scaling Backward. Most people think scaling means doing more. More projects. More income streams. More complexity. More oversight. That assumption destroys systems. Real scale moves in the opposite direction. Cash flow mastery scales through simplification. The question is never, how can I add more? It is, how can this system produce more with less input from me? Let me illustrate this with a small business example. Consider a photography studio owner named Maria. Maria makes $80,000 a year doing 50 weddings, each averaging $1,600. She works every weekend, edits photos until midnight, and burns out yearly. She thinks scaling means doing 100 weddings. Wrong. Instead, Maria shifts her model. She raises her price to $3,200 per wedding, premium service. She books 25 weddings. Revenue, $80,000. She now has 25 free weekends. She creates a $200 online course teaching beginner photographers. She sells 50 courses a month. Revenue, $120,000 annually. She now has a total income of $200,000, working half the hours, with 80% of her income not dependent on her physical presence. Maria didn't scale up. She scaled through simplification and leverage. She reduced her dependency on her time and increased her income. That is the mastery of scaling. True scale reduces dependence. Dependence on your time. Dependence on your energy. Dependence on continuous decision-making. When a system scales correctly, output increases while strain decreases. If growth is making life harder, structure is missing. If growth is making life calmer, systems are maturing. Watch not the numbers, watch the strain. Wealthy systems appear conservative, slow, perhaps even boring. From the inside, they are designed to absorb weight. To take on more without cracking. Reinforce before you expand. Deepen redundancy before you add complexity. Only then does growth become something you can keep. Part 7, The Final Test. Chapter 19, The Exit Question. Here is the question that reveals the true strength of any financial system: if I disappeared for 6 months, what would continue? Most people cannot answer confidently. Their income requires their presence. Their lifestyle requires their performance. Their obligations require their consistency. They built something that will not function without them. That is not ownership. That is obligation. Let's apply this to 2 retirees. Retiree A has $300,000 in a 401k and a paid-off house. Their Social Security covers basic living expenses. They withdraw $12,000 annually from savings to cover extras. Their net worth is stable. They can travel, relax, and volunteer. They are fine. Retiree B has $1.2 million invested across diversified accounts. Their annual yield, 4%, is $48,000. They reinvest $8,000 each year to keep pace with inflation and live on $40,000. Their children are financially independent. They can help their grandkids with college, support a local charity, and take 3 international trips a year. Retiree B doesn't just survive, they thrive. And their system works whether they pay attention to it or not. Cash flow mastery reverses this. It designs life so that absence does not equal failure. This is exit optionality. And it is not about quitting. It is about removing desperation from every decision you make while still present. When you know you could walk away, not that you will, but that you could, you negotiate differently. You choose differently. You tolerate less. Because the fear of loss is no longer the engine driving your decisions. We seeded this earlier. In Part 1, we said tracking is not punishment, it is leadership. Because leadership paves the way for delegation. When your system is documented, automated, and trusted, it runs without you. That is the goal. Not wealth as a number. Wealth as the right to move without fear. Chapter 20, The Pattern You Leave. Most people do not intend to pass down financial stress. They simply do. Not through words. Through behavior. Through the tension visible in their shoulders when a bill arrives. Through the arguments behind closed doors. Through the way work is discussed, as something inescapable rather than chosen. Children do not learn money from lectures. They learn it from atmosphere. An atmosphere is built from pattern. Let me paint a picture. Sophia is 42. She grew up in a home where her parents argued about money every single month. She remembers the phone ringing with collection calls. She remembers her mother crying in the kitchen. As a result, Sophia became an anxious spender. She hoarded money, felt guilty for any purchase, and avoided looking at her bank account altogether, a paralysis response to the trauma of her childhood. Compare Sophia to Carlos. Carlos grew up in a home where his parents reviewed the budget together at the dining table, calmly, once a week. They talked about saving for vacation. They explained to Carlos that they had a fun bucket, and when it was empty, they waited. Carlos learned that money is a tool, not a threat. He grew up calm about finances. He never developed a scarcity mindset. He invests regularly, spends guilt-free, and sleeps well at night. Sophia and Carlos represent the intergenerational transmission of financial pattern. You are currently creating the atmosphere for the people in your home. Your anxiety about money is palpable to them. Your calm is palpable too. We seeded this earlier. In part 2, we built systems that survive your worst days. But that same resilience creates a home environment where money is calm. When finances are structured, conversations soften. When the background pressure lifts, presence becomes possible. This is legacy, not what you leave behind in numbers, but what you reshape in the people around you. The demonstration that planning creates peace. That structure is not punishment but protection. Children raised inside financial calm do not associate adulthood with anxiety. They associate it with design. With intention. With the idea that life is something you build rather than something that simply happens to you. You are not just building freedom. You are building a new pattern worth inheriting. Chapter 21, The Final Identity, the Capstone. Everything built before this, the tracking, the systems, the patience, the structure, was preparation. Because no system survives an identity that contradicts it. You can have every tool in place, every automation running. And if, at your core, you still see yourself as someone who is bad with money, you will find ways to undo what you built. Because identity is the deepest system of all. Let's look at Rachel. Rachel has an automated savings transfer, a 401k contribution, and a budget app. But inside, Rachel believes, I'm not a money person, and I always end up broke. Every time she has a good month, a part of her sabotages it, an impulsive trip, an expensive wardrobe purchase, a gift she can't afford. She is fighting her own self-concept. The architecture is there. The identity is not. Cash flow mastery is only permanent when it becomes self-concept. Not when you manage money well. When you are someone who designs flow. Someone who expects systems to perform. Someone who doesn't argue with structure any more than they argue with gravity. How does identity shift happen? It happens through repetition and proof. Every month that Rachel sticks to her 3-bucket system is a brick in a new identity. Every time she resists an impulse and feels the relief of staying on track, the neural pathway strengthens. Over time, the anxiety fades. The new identity solidifies. Rachel stops trying to save and simply saves. It is no longer an act of willpower. It is an act of alignment. You no longer track obsessively. You simply notice misalignment quickly and correct without drama. You no longer save through willpower. You save because it is how you move through the world. You no longer protect cash flow from anxiety. You protect it because you understand consequence. That is mastery in its final form. Not force. Not vigilance. Identity. Once formed, it does not fade easily. It becomes the ground beneath every financial choice you will ever make. Quietly. Reliably. This is the finish line. Not a number. A way of seeing money that refuses chaos, defaults to structure, and allows life to be lived, not managed. Listener check-in 3. You've made it this far. That alone tells me you're ready for change. Don't let this knowledge sit on a shelf. Pick one thing from today, just one, and implement it in the next 24 hours. That's how systems are born. One action at a time. Outro. This audiobook ends here. The mastery does not. You now understand something most people spend a lifetime chasing without finding. That freedom is not a destination arrived at through income. It is a state created through design. Calm is not a reward for finishing. It is the foundation from which everything worth building begins. Carry this forward: design before desire. Systems before salaries. Calm before expansion. When you drift, and everyone who has ever built something real has drifted, return to that sequence. Not with shame. Not with urgency. With the quiet confidence of someone who knows the structure works and simply needs to step back inside it. If you took one thing from this, write it in the comments. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready to go deeper, click the next video. I've got more waiting for you. You are no longer someone who reacts to money. You are someone who directs it. And direction, applied consistently across time, changes everything. That is cash flow mastery. And now, it belongs to you. See you in the next one.